Hey everybody, and welcome to the Everything Voiceover podcast. My name is Justin D. Torres. A lot's been happening with Everything Voiceover over the past month or so. We've been unable to put out podcasts since Steve Tardio was here. And a lot's been happening. We actually got our first sponsor in VoiceRealm. So I'll be saying stuff like the Everything Voiceover podcast sponsored by VoiceRealm, where only professional voice actors are listed. Now, this is a huge boon because of all you listeners out there that we're getting noticed by sponsors, and I've actually been a member of VoiceRealm for about 3 months or so, and I've gotten a couple jobs, and they do have consistent work that's available to a lot of voice actors, and it's a lot less than Voices.com, but it still has some of the really great minimum payments, and it has a really good setup similar to Voices, and I definitely recommend it for everyone. So I was so stoked that they came to me and wanted to sponsor this amazing podcast. So thank you, VoiceRealm, and if you guys are looking for a good pay-to-play site, go ahead and check it out. Now, here's some really cool things that have been happening over the past month. I was offered the ability to teach at the Voices.com LevelUp conference, which was in San Francisco earlier this month. I had a great time. I was teaching people how to use Audacity, which if you go to everythingvoiceover.com, I've got videos on it. My goal was to try and get people to learn Audacity within 15 minutes. And these were with beginning voiceover actors, and they listened, and I had the video up there, and there's videos on everythingvoiceover.com that can help you out. Very similar stuff, but it is that easy to get started editing. So I got them editing, and then I had this thing called the Audition Toolbox, which was 10 tips and tricks that every actor needs to be able to continually get better and better at voiceover. And I'm pretty sure that I'll probably set up a podcast to dedicate it entirely to the Audition Toolbox, because I think it's a great thing to have, because I think as voice actors, we are all constantly trying to get better, and we have to constantly remind ourselves how to smile, how to use characters, how to use your body, all these little things, bits and pieces you'll use over and over during your voiceover career. And if you keep this little toolbox at hand, you'll be able to get better and better, and you'll always be using it. There's never going to be a time where you're going to be the best voiceover actor and you'll be perfect for every job. Right now I'm doing pretty well and I'm perfect for certain jobs, but eventually that'll maybe slow down and I'll probably try and take another class to try and get better at it. Another thing that I've been thinking about is workflow. I learned editing on Sony Vegas Video, and when you learn an editing system, you just learn the functions that it has, and I was using it for about the better part of 5 years, and I've recently switched to Reaper, which is a little bit more complicated of a software. It's only $60. It's available for sale for any small business or personal use, and I bought it, and I tried to set up all this stuff for it, and once I got my workflow streamlined, was able to edit actual auditions as the thing is playing. So as it's playing, I'm editing the breaths out as it's going. So it's almost listening and editing at the same time, which is hugely beneficial. I'm getting things done much quicker, but there is like a 30-day grace period where you gotta learn technical stuff, and it's tough for a 35-year-old such as myself who hasn't learned a new software in a long time to be able to learn something new and learn new hotkeys and pick up new software and pick up new peripherals to try and get this workflow going. But workflow is definitely huge, and I think everythingvoiceover.com will be putting out some more workflow materials, so be sure to check that out. Once again, the Everything Voiceover podcast is sponsored by the Voice Realm, where only professional voice actors are listed. While I was at the Voices.com LevelUp conference, I met a lot of really amazing voiceover actors, and the thing about this business is that there's so many people from different walks of life trying it out, or maybe they're trying a new career out, and it's so interesting to see who's here. We've got one of the teachers was an ex-Marine. I spoke with lawyers and doctors, a woman who wrote grants for like environmental stuff. She was making the switch to voiceover. I mean, there's so many people from so many different walks of life that just want to get into voiceover, and I have to tell you, it's amazing. It's amazing to have so many people just want to sit down and talk and just want to make a little bit extra cash and hear their voice on video games or on audiobooks. And And the one thing I need to tell everyone out there is that it is a blessing when you finally get to be pretty good at this, because in essence, you are just talking. You're telling stories to people, and it's a great job. And to be lucky enough to be able to, we're in a great situation in this society where we can actually do this from home. You don't have to take a million classes. You don't have to get a degree in voiceover. This is the Wild West. You can get this done right now. And during my class, I told a lot of the people out there, I was like, listen, it's going to be hard. It's going to be practice. You're going to wonder why the heck you're doing it. There's going to be months where you're not going to get paid. But when you do get paid, you'll realize that this was for something that was, when it comes to the creative aspects of the fine arts and jobs that are possible out there, this is probably one of the better ones. So for all you out there looking for a slice of advice, I say stick with it. Your voice can be heard. If you do have any speech impediments, go get that fixed. Learn how to speak articulately. Learn how to smile. Learn how to have a good time, and be patient with yourself. That was the one thing I told all the people at the class is be patient with yourself. Now, the first thing I did when I got home from the voiceover conference, because I had all these cool ideas about how to streamline my workflow, how to get jobs quicker, how many agents you can have. There's all these really great tips out there. And when I got home, what I did was I bought what is called a Logitech G13. It's like a bunch of buttons on like a side panel that is supposed to work differently than your keyboard. So what I'm doing now is I'm only using my mouse and this Logitech G13 to try and use only those two while I'm editing. And I've also been able to get some kind of macros going so that when I'm going through my Voices.com auditions, I no longer have to click in 3 different places on the screen. I'm using hotkeys, I'm using macros to get all that stuff done. Now, one big warning about this, the learning curve is steep for using macros and using hotkeys and trying to figure out a streamlined workflow. But, this is in the experiment stage for me. But I'm very excited and I'm very happy about it. And I think that if you check out the site over the next couple of weeks, you'll be able to get a little bit more information on what I'm doing exactly. And hopefully you can get it done as well. For one great example there's a Google Chrome app where if you just right click and pull a portion of the screen, it will open up every one of the things you selected with your mouse as tabs all over the screen. So if you think about it, if you can go to voices.com and you're going to audition for 20 jobs, you can look at all 20 of them, right click, put a square over all 20 of them, and then suddenly they'll be on all the tabs loading in. So you don't have to right click, open in a new tab, right click, open in a new tab. You can just do one click, they're all there. Now that's just a piece of how you can streamline your workflow a little bit better. And also, what else I learned at the Voices.com conference is that even the best of us are all kind of just trying to figure it out. That's the coolest thing about voiceover, is that the best of us will always be troubleshooting all the time. I met this one great instructor there, Naomi Mercer, and she had actually, and I'm hoping to get her on to this podcast at some point, she had actually built her own studio at her house, her own whisper room. And it's like a 1,000-pound. She used plywood, then she put insulator, then plywood over that, and then carpeting, and you can watch. And even on her site, she has the entire thing how she did it, and it looks insane. And it's also mobile, so she's got this whole thing that can move anywhere she wants. And it's that kind of ingenuity that we as voiceover actors have to get where we are. I mean, all the edges that we're trying to get, like a new microphone, a new software, a new pay-to-play site, those are all attempts to try and get things a little bit better, but you never know exactly what is going to work. Now, when I first got back from the conference, I was a little inspired. Like I said, I bought the G13, but I was also so inspired that I ended up getting myself a better microphone for voiceover. I'm using the same Blue Yeti right now for the podcast because, let's face it, to move my big mic out from the booth into near the computer is just a pain. And plus, I've got this great Blue Yeti that I got for Christmas that's amazing, and you guys are used to the Blue Yeti, so I'm not going to bring out the Sennheiser. But I got a little inspired, and I started using Reaper. I started using a Logitech G13. I also ended up buying a Sennheiser 416, which is the big, awesome shotgun mic that all the ADR for most films use. And I don't know if Adorama has this deal on, but they had a great, amazing deal for a Zoom H6 Handycam and a Sennheiser for $999.99. Now, regularly, the Sennheiser is about $1,000 in general. So what they're essentially doing is giving you a free Zoom H6 Handycam. So the first thing I did was I really thought about it, and I was like, I've never seen the Zoom. I've never seen the Sennheiser for less than $1,000. So I went ahead and bought it, and then what I did was the next day I put the H6 on eBay along with my older mic, the amazing Caddy 100S. I also put my old preamp up, the quad capture up, because I got a Scarlett Focusrite that's just as good. And I put it all up there, and afterwards, and a $1,000 Sennheiser ended up costing me as a replacement maybe about $400. If you think about that, I had to sell off everything on eBay, sell off 3 things on eBay, but it's definitely worth it. And the cool thing about if you are getting into a professional microphone, the big Neumanns, specifically the Sennheiser 416, their resale value are just as good as any other microphone. Some other microphones, they lose a little bit of value because they haven't become an industry standard. But once you get into Neumanns, you get into Sennheisers, you can actually resell them for about the same as you bought them for, depending on if there hasn't been like a bigger thing that's happened. Sennheiser has had that mic out for years. And the same thing with the Neumann TLM 102, 103. Those are all standards. So if you're a pro and you're looking for that extra jump to the next level, and you have a little bit extra money, and you can sell off one of your old mics, or if you want to keep it, it's no big deal. Invest in that professional line of TLM 103, 102, or Sennheiser 416. I think it's a really good idea. I think there may be better deals coming out. And I don't think you'll regret it. I definitely saw the exact same. I could tell the difference. Let's just say that. Another really cool thing I learned at the conference is that there's this type of insulation that you can put into your booths called denim insulation. It's like cut up denim cloth, and it's apparently so much better than fiberglass because you don't have to breathe it in. I've got something called Roxul, which is like a sound. It's specifically for sound, but this guy swears that one thing that happens when you go to these voiceover conferences, you learn a lot of stuff, and one of these guys swears that it's the quietest thing you can put in your room. So if you're trying to learn how to soundproof your room and you're looking for some kind of good insulation and you don't want to use fiberglass, no one wants to use fiberglass, it's not a good idea. You'll breathe it in, especially if you're going to be talking in a room, and when you hit it, suddenly it'll burst out in fiberglass and you'll start tasting it. You don't want to use fiberglass. Use something other than fiberglass. Roxul has been working for me, but apparently there's this pieces of denim insulation that's amazing, and it's just as good as all that Auralex stuff. So if you're looking for a really good insulation, as per this is only from what I've heard advice-wise from the conference, it's give them a shot. Now, another big question that was going on throughout the conferences with the majority of with the teachers, everyone had this little fear, this innate fear that how do I watermark or how do I keep my auditions safe so that someone doesn't steal my auditions? And every single person that answered it had something similar to, I've never had it stolen from me. It's kind of like They've never had that problem before, and it's true. And here's a good tip that's been consistently out there for a while. Never do the entire audition. When you are doing auditions, never do the entire audition. Even if the client says we are only accepting full auditions, don't do the entire audition. It's not worth it. I feel like if a client can't hear what they want in 30 seconds or 20 seconds, then they're not a good enough client, to be perfectly honest. Occasionally, I will give full auditions through agents, but it's only agents that I've worked with, or agents that are union, or agents that are really higher up, and they ask for specific full-on auditions. I've actually allowed, I've got a few articles in Everything Voiceover, a certain repeat client of mine, I had to go through email back and forths about, I did not want to give him full auditions, but he told me that, hey, the thing about us is that we send out the audition to the client, and then if they say yes, they will use the audition for the final product, and we'll pay you directly for that. And initially I was a little bit weirded out for it, but I started trusting them, and they have been one of my best clients. And I've never had to redo a single thing. My auditions end up being used, and I get paid just as well from them. It's a little bit more convenient. It's a little more scary, but you have to. It really did have to. It really needed interaction. I needed to make sure that client knew that I was not okay with this, and that they need to make sure that my stuff isn't used without being paid. And for the most part, I've made a decent amount of money from them. And so, in conclusion, you never want to give an audition to a client you don't know. A full audition, not a half audition is good. I've really only been doing half auditions, even if it's like 2 sentences long. I make sure that the very end of the sentence I don't say. And if they're not going to hire me, that's fine. And here's the thing. As a new voiceover actor, you think if you put in the extra effort or the extra mile into the audition, it's going to pay off. But what I've found is that you're only shooting for clients you want to work with. If there's a client who takes 4 takes before they can figure out if they want to hire you, then they're probably not a client you want to work for. I've had clients come back to me after that I worked for pennies on the dollar for them. And I've upped my ante, and they've complained, and I've said, listen, this is what I've worked with. And then what ends up happening is I'll do their job at a higher rate, and it'll be that much better. And then the next time they come to me, I'll charge them a little bit more because with this particular client that I'm talking about, it was so low that twice as much would not be what I'm working for now. It's like 3 times as much. So I'm just trying to get them to a point where I feel comfortable that they are paying for the work that I'm worth. So make sure that when you're going out there as a non-union artist, that you're not being taken advantage of, that you're not doing full auditions. The one great thing about Voice Realm is they request that you don't do the full audition, which is the first thing I've heard from any pay-to-play site. I've heard pay-to-play sites say no slating, and Voices Realm also does that. They say no slating, but which I have a huge. I know I've talked about that in Everything Voiceover articles and other things. I have a huge. That's my pet peeve is no slating, but also they're requesting that you don't do the full audition, which I respect, because then they're telling clients, listen, you're not getting the full audition from these guys. We're not going to allow you to take their stuff and use it, which is cool. And I have a lot of respect for them for that. I think if I had to do my top pay-to-play sites, Voices.com would be number 1, Voice Realm would be number 2, and then everyone else, including Voice123 after that, would be the next go. It's a wild west out there, and there's no way for you to protect your millions of auditions. I recently hit my 10,000th audition in Voices.com, and I may have been screwed a couple of times along the way, but I've also made clients that really like working with me, and I like working with them, and those are going to be the clients that are going to be the people I work with for years to come. And in the end, we're all just looking to get repeat clients. The ideal end of a voiceover person's career is no longer having to audition. I mean, that's it. That's what the dream is. You wake up, you get 3 jobs, you do the jobs right away, you don't have to audition, and then you go live your life and do whatever you want to do. That's the end-all, be-all dream for all voiceover actors, and the only way you can do that is if you can find the clients that are great for you. And unfortunately, when you're starting out, you're going to have to do a lot of auditioning. But, as I said before, be patient with yourself. You're doing awesome. Voices.com is a LevelUp conference that's coming into New York soon. I recommend it for beginners and even experienced people. There's some really good information out there. That's great to go. And head over to everythingvoiceover.com over the next couple of weeks. We're going to start putting out articles and we'll start putting out videos specifically tutorial-wise to help you streamline your workflow and help you learn Reaper a little bit better. And as I'm learning here, I hope to document it so that people can learn there as well. So a huge thank you to everyone out there that's listening. Thanks for the comments. Thanks for sharing and everything like that. I appreciate it. This has been the Everything Voiceover podcast, sponsored by the Voice Realm, where only professional voice actors are listed. Thanks everyone for coming out. My name is Justin D. Torres. Head on to everythingvoiceover.com. Like us on Facebook. Like us on Twitter. Thanks for listening. Have a great day.